You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Give me a full ballerina skirt and a hint of saloon, and I'm on board.
I can't go back.
Welcome to the She Became Visible podcast. I'm your host, Renee Steelman. This podcast is my story. It's your story. It's our story. It's all the stories of all the women who one day knew that it was time to remember who they were, who they are, and stand up and be seen. Hello and welcome to She Became Visible. It is January 5th. It is Sunday. And do you know what that means? It means tomorrow's Monday. And for all of you women, you all know what Monday means, right? It's the day that we start our diets, our health habits, whatever resolution we made January 1. We knew it wasn't going to go into effect until January 6th. Until the first Monday after all of the holiday stuff is over. Maybe the kids have gone back to school, husbands and we have all gone back to work, and we've gotten back into our routine. But resolutions break up that routine and they break up our habits. And so Monday seems to be the day that everyone chooses to start their new habits. So I just wanted to make a short little video welcoming you to She Became Visible. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope this is a weekly occurrence. And reminding you that you need to subscribe and like. This is I don't have a paywall. I don't have a Patreon. I don't ask for any income. I want to share with you what I have found to be wonderful in life. And that is the sole purpose of She Became Visible, solely to encourage women, especially women in my demographic, to become the best person that they can be on their own terms. And so I love to share. I love to learn. And the best way to learn is to share. So that is the purpose of She Became Visible podcast. So this is going to be a very short podcast today to introduce you to She Became Visible and what our goal is going to be for 2025. Now, as I mentioned, if any of you have seen any of my other podcasts, you will remember that I did focus a lot in my leaving a very fundamental restrictive religion, which was the Mormon Church. That was a primary focus of my past podcasts because it was so instrumental in me becoming visible. It was instrumental, me leaving was instrumental in me taking back my life. And so that's why it was a priority. And I will be mentioning my experiences in the Mormon Church as I reflect on the other things that we're going to be concentrating on this year, which is our health and our fitness. And because lifestyle and restrictions in a fundamental religion will have a lot to do with your health and your fitness, especially for women. And so we will be talking about things that have to do with the Mormon Church throughout the year, but I'm always going to try and bring them back into how that relates to you as a woman becoming visible, taking back your life, and becoming healthy mentally and physically. So I just wanted to introduce you to a couple of people that I'm going to probably be referencing throughout the next year. And let me introduce you to this first guy. Dr. Mike Israelty, I believe this is how his name is pronounced. Israelati. I'm pronouncing it wrong. Hopefully Stephen will introduce him on his podcast. I don't know how many of you have seen Stephen's podcast, but it is a fabulous podcast. And he has guests with all different genres. And it's very informative. I love it. And I love when he has Dr. Mike on. The reason I love Dr. Mike and the reason why I'm going to be using him a lot in my podcast this year to talk about health and fitness is he's very upfront. He's if you have a problem with profanity, he might not be your guy. But he just says it like it is. And I love that in a person, especially in a health professional. I want someone who's going to be honest, and he will break things down, and I like that. And he isn't on he doesn't have one course that he only follows. He's really there to explain how our bodies work, how nutrition works, how strength training works. And he just kind of breaks it down physiologically. And he doesn't really get into any kind of a platform. He's not trying to sell you anything, except for he does have an app and he does have a program. But let me introduce you to him, because I think what he's saying is very apropos for our first video introducing you to what She Became Visible is going to be like. So let's bring Mike on stage.
The big myths that end up standing in the way of most people when you say that someone can get in shape and be lean with limited time.
I don't have the time to work out. One of the most common questions I get out in the real world when people happen to look in my general direction, because usually people just kind of go like, what the hell's wrong with that guy's head? One of the most common questions I get is, how many hours a day do you work out? Or how many days a week do you work out? And every single person is expecting an answer that is kind of like asking the tallest basketball player you've ever met how tall they are. You want an answer that's like 2.5 meters. You want something meaty. And if they tell you like, well, I'm 1.90 meters, you're kind of like, ugh, isn't that cool? And every time I tell them how much I work out, which is really like 8 hours a week, and this is to do this insane thing for people just trying to be fit and healthy, etc. We're talking about a sum total of 1 hour per week is such a huge stimulus and can radically transform your body.
Is that not amazing? But that's exactly what I'm talking about. He is just down to the basic science of physical fitness. And I've actually had people ask me the same questions, because there is a mentality out there that there is some kind of magic about getting healthy. And I believe I will blame a lot of the marketing on that, because marketing wants to sell you magic. Marketing wants to sell you a pill, a food. If you eat blueberries, if you drink celery juice, if you have a protein shake, what is the magic pill that I can take to become healthy and physically fit? And we want that as humans, especially in this day and age. We are so busy and our schedules are so crazy. We want someone to just give us the list. Give us the list. Number 1, do this. Number 2, do this. And if we follow that list, we will become healthy and physically fit. And we want that. And when someone just says, go and exercise for an hour a day, they're like, well, no, that's too easy. That can't be true. Or if someone says to you, just walk, they're like, no, I have to go to a high rock class. I have to do F45. I have to be extreme. I have to be sweating my guts out. I have to run 20 miles a day. No, you don't have to. But we think it has to be hard to be successful. And so that's one of the things I like about Mike. And I'm going to be bringing Dr. Mike on my show through his clips, because he's a big guy. And the chances of me getting him as a true guest on my podcast are slim to none, unless you subscribe and you start making this podcast more visual out there for people to grab. And that's how you get fabulous guests like Dr. Mike. But that's one of the people that I'm going to be introducing you to this year. Okay, let me introduce you to another Dr. Mike clip that I love.
Is a biological process which roughly is composed of 2 elements. The first element is aging occurs because of degradation due to entropy, like just your body gets dirty internally, for lack of a better word. Hair's going gray via melanocyte damage due to oxidative stress is a good example. It's just like stuff adds up and then it's not as good as it used to be. The same way your car ages. The other component is what is called pre-programmed senescence. Your body has the systems to really curb aging ton, and I'll demonstrate how we know this later. At some age and at older and older ages, it just stops really using these systems.
So that's an example of the kind of information that he gives you, which I absolutely love. He also has a short, find him on YouTube. You've got to start following him, okay? Dr. Mike Israelity. I cannot pronounce his last name, but you will find him. He's very easy to find. Just write in Dr. Mike on YouTube and you'll find him. But he talks about genetics. He's very honest about our bodies and what we can expect. And so I'm going to be using him a lot when I talk this year about getting healthy and fit. So let me also bring on, so yeah, it's January and it's like, as much as we kind of like, maybe December was fun. Maybe we ate a little bit too much. Maybe we drank a little bit too much. Maybe we partied a little bit too much, but it was fun. And so January is like being told, you know what, you got to go back to school. It's like our kids are all dreading going back to school and knowing that we have to do homework now, right? So, but it's true. It's true. It's here and we got to get going. So this is another person that I'm going to be bringing on, and this is Dr. Tina Moore. And again, Tina is I really love her. She's also a big wig. So the chances of me getting her as a real guest on my podcast are slim to none unless you subscribe, like, and share. But let me just introduce you to her. You can also find her on YouTube and Instagram. And she is a traditionally and alternatively trained in science and medicine as both a licensed naturopathic physician and a chiropractor. She brings a unique perspective to those wishing to build a more robust foundation for their health and well-being. She graduated from an accredited naturopathic medical school, the National College of Natural Medicine, or National College of Natural Medicine, and the University of Western States Chiropractic College. She hosts the Dr. Tina Show podcast, and she is a best-selling author and international speaker. Now, what I like about Dr. Moore is she's a naturopath. I really do love naturopaths. I don't even go to a regular MD. I mentioned in my last podcast, I think a couple podcasts ago, that because I'm on Medicare, I'm required to have a primary care physician. So I found one and I did a meet and greet with this doctor. And the first thing he wanted to know was what shots, what immunizations I'd had, what medications I was on, which of course I expect that. But then he was very concerned that I was not on any medications. And this is what I don't like about doctors. It's not about preventative medicine. It's like, what can I sell you? And I don't know. I don't want to bring my bias into this podcast, but I prefer to go to naturopaths. My babies were born with naturopaths, and I have usually followed their advice more than I have any doctor's advice. But that's my own prejudice. Anyway, I like Dr. Moore, especially because she's very honest about using the new GLPs. And she really talks about how the advantages of them and how it's a new science that really needs to be investigated and not downgraded the way it's being downgraded a lot in marketing. And so she talks about that. She talks about eating disorders, image, just health in general. And I love also going to female doctors. So I'm going to be referencing Dr. Moore this year as well. So those are just two people that I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about food choices that I like. They may not be up your alley, but it's things that seem to work for me. And so I'm really encouraging you as you start tomorrow, if nothing else, try to bring in more protein into your diet. And that can be, and I have to tell you, I was vegan for 5 years. I was a certified vegan coach. And I really wanted to go plant-based because I was told by doctors that I had high cholesterol and they kept trying to put me on statins. And I said, I will not go on a statin. I didn't have any evidence or medical criteria to base that decision on, but I just said, I'm not going on a statin. I have read a little bit up on them and I'm not willing to risk my liver. And doctors were very frustrated that I refused to take a statin. And then one day I was coming home from an event in the evening and I was listening to a talk show on the radio in my car. And I heard them say that the patent had expired on statins and that now the general version of that medication could be prescribed. And they are now willing and open to starting to tell people what damage these statins do. One of them is type 2 diabetes. And there were all of these other health effects that came from using a statin. And so what the medical profession was saying was you have to balance what is your risk? Is your risk of cardiovascular issues with having high cholesterol worse than liver damage or type 2 diabetes? You have to balance it. And I'm like, how about no on either one? And so now this was years ago. This was over 10 years ago that I heard this. And now they're coming out with studies saying, oh, guess what? Big mistake. We've discovered that cholesterol really isn't that big of a deal, and that the numbers that we're looking at was giving us false information. And having high cholesterol really doesn't indicate any kind of heart issues. And so this is why you have to listen to your body and listen to what works for your body. If you have a lot of brain fog, you might want to consider eating a little bit more protein and not as many carbs. If brain fog is not a deal for you, carbs might be your thing. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that. But what I'm going to tell you is what works for me and what I believe from the science that is being out there right now. So that's a little introduction to She Became Visible 2025. I hope you join me. This week, we're going to be starting out. I'm going to be interviewing a fabulous naturopath. And we have our podcast scheduled for Thursday, but she's a doctor and she has a life. So I can't guarantee you that we'll be live on Thursday, but that's our plan. I may have to record it and just broadcast it on Thursday. I don't know. We had a meeting scheduled for last Thursday, and she had a family thing that came up. That's life, right? That's the problem with podcasts, is you have to deal with people and their lives, okay? And but the plan is that sometime this coming week, I'm going to be sharing She Became Visible, and my first guest is a fabulous naturopath that I go to and see here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we're going to be talking about health, hormones, and getting women on their best plan and their best journey for making 2025 the best. So thanks for joining me today, and I appreciate it. And please, again, subscribe, like, and share. Tell your friends, especially your girlfriends, about this podcast, because we're going to do this together. And I really, really, really want to do as many live broadcasts as possible so that I can get comments and feedback from all of you. So thanks for joining me today, and we will see you again this week, hopefully. Bye-bye.